Hey everybody, welcome to PBI Radio. It's Chris Guns. My guest today is Kaliesha West. She is the WBO Bantamweight Ladies Champion, and her dad, Juan West. Should be interesting. She's moving up in weight to fight Christina Ruiz in Pomona, California on October 6th, and I'm sure she's got a lot to say. Let's check in with Kaliesha. Kaliesha and Juan West, thank you for being on PBI Radio. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thank you.
Tell me about yourself, Kaliesha. Where were you born?
South Haven, Michigan.
And what's that like, growing up in Michigan?
You know what? I didn't grow up over there. We moved all the way to Arizona at first when I was 4 years old.
Yeah,
and then
the odd part, though, that's my hometown. I grew up in South Haven, Michigan.
well, my dad grew up in South Haven, Michigan.
No. And where did you grow up? You grew up in...
I grew up in Moreno Valley, California.
Oh, so you're a California girl. What's that like?
I have a Midwest heart, but I live a Cali lifestyle.
That's it. You got it from your father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me how it is being raised where you were raised. What kind of place was it?
Well, for the most part, it was very diverse. You know, like you have every ethnicity everywhere you go, growing up in high school, junior high. And when I was little, though, you know, I would always get, when living in the apartments, I was always getting picked on by the bigger girls, and I got jumped one time, and they would call me like Oreo, and
Haters.
like, yeah, because I'm mixed. And it's like, you know, what race would you want me to claim? Like, you know, I'm in a Latina magazine,
right,
and people say, well, she's not Latina, and I'm like, hey, well, my mom's Mexican. And then it's like, if I'm in a Puerto Rican magazine, well, she's not Puerto Rican. Well, my dad's mixed with Puerto Rican. Like, well, what do you guys want me to do? Why? You know, that's how it was growing up. I was kind of looked at like, what are you mixed with? And for the most part, I grew up with the boys, playing with my brother outside, and he was like my best friend. So we'd go play kickball, throw rocks, catch spiders, and do all the stuff outside. I loved being outside. I was like an alley cat growing up.
A tomboy.
Yeah, I was a big time tomboy.
So your father's Creole, I heard. He's Puerto Rican. He's Irish. He's American Indian. And your mother's Mexican only, or is she? I heard she was Mexican and Korean. What is your mother?
Well, she has Korean family, you know, on her father's side. On her grandfather's side, Kaliesha's grandfather's side.
So Kaliesha's just global. She's a part of the world. People just gotta accept it. Nobody's like that. Nobody has that many cousins.
Every ethnicity decided to come together, and then I was created later on.
Yeah, I have a Korean doctor that loves Kaliesha. She's got the Korean family.
It's just you're global. You belong to the world.
Right.
And tell me about your home life growing up. Who's in your house? You just have your mom, dad, and a brother?
I grew up with it being my brother and my mom and dad, and then when I was around 11 years old was when my baby sister Giovanna was born, and then right afterwards Jasmine was born. And for the most part, it was me, my two sisters, and my brother up until I was in high school, and then that was when it was my senior year, and that was when my parents were going through a separation and divorce. But throughout, I was pretty much raised with mom, dad, you know, brother, and my two sisters in the house.
And what kind of girl were you? Were you just into sports and stuff?
I was always wanting to play kickball. I remember being 13 years old in junior high, and my brother was getting older. He was a year and a half older than me, so he was getting in high school, and I was like, come on, Marco, come on, Thomas is outside. Marky is outside. We're going to go get the bats, and we're going to go, you know, hit rocks or do something crazy. and play
handball every day on my
we would play handball on the garage door, and I remember it got to a point where my brother was just like, no, I don't feel like it anymore. He was inside playing computer games. He got hooked on computers when my dad brought computers home, and I was still wanting to go outside. But then I would end up staying, and we ended up getting like wars. We'd get Call of Duty wars going, and then before that, though, we get GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 wars going, and Mario Kart wars. I was always, I was always having to go that extra mile, because when I was outside when I was little, my brother's friends, they wouldn't really accept me because I was the only girl. So I was always fighting with the boys. I had to fight Joe. I fought Marky. I fought Thomas. And it's funny because a couple of months ago, one of the boys that I fought, he wrote on my Facebook wall and said, "I knew you were going to be a champion because I remember when you knocked me out in the garage when we were little."
So you're making impacts when you're a little girl. How did the divorce of your parents affect you?
It was real hard, because I'd say the hardest part was going through the divorce. Because when I was a senior in high school, and my dad and my mom were going through problems. My dad, he doesn't have any family out here. All he has is a little brother. And, he doesn't have a mom or dad he could call or run to for advice. So for the most part, me and him being so close, he was kind of leaning on me. And me being real mature for my age, I was there for him. And then when my mom left, she was going, I don't know what she was going through, some midlife crisis, but she
was kind of fed up with the boxing, too. So in Kaliesha's pro debut, she took out that divorce on her first opponent.
Yeah. But right before my pro debut was when everything had happened. When my mom left, and she just didn't say anything. She just up and left and moved to Temecula, where her job was. And I was at home helping my dad with the little girls, my little sisters, Siobhan and Jasmine, because they were barely 7, 8 years old. They were, in elementary. So I was getting them ready for school and doing their laundry and helping my dad as much as I can. And my brother was just there. He was working and providing transportation for me to get to and from school at that time.
Yeah. So you already got into boxing before all that happened. How old were you when you got into boxing?
I was 10 years old and I got interested into it, and then when I started competing, I was 11.
And your dad didn't make it easy for you. He tried to dissuade you from being a boxer, because he was one too, right? He didn't want you to.
He was always so hard on me, because he was always like, see, I told you, it's not a game, it's not something you want to play with. Are you sure you want to do it? You sure this is what you want to do? So he was always hard on me, and as a matter of fact, he always had it in him where, just because you're my daughter doesn't mean I'm going to go lie on you. So then I would end up doing the same workouts as the men, the same workouts as the boys. There was no, here's a girl workout and here's a boy workout. It was, here's the fighter's workout. I want all you guys to go run up that hill. And I'd be the only girl with like 8 boys running up a mountain, coming in 3rd place sometimes, 2nd place still up there with the boys doing the same workouts. So he never treated me any different when it came to the team and the fighters. I was always doing the same routine, same everything. I'd say the only advantage that I got was in the beginning, at home, he was like, well, if you're going to do this, if you really want to fight, then I'm not going to have you getting beat up. I'm not going to have you getting slapped around. So he would sit on his recliner in the living room, and, this was, when I was little, everything he said, it was okay. So everyone would be, playing video games, watching movies, and he'd be like, get over here. I want you to shadow box for the next 30 minutes. Or when I call out this combination, I want you to kick them off. 1, 2, 1, 2. And this was all, trying to get the basics down. I was probably about 12, 13 years old at this time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you ran track in high school, too, so you're really athletic, and you like running, obviously, right?
I ran track and field and cross country, and when I got into it, I was doing it for boxing. I was like, I want to get in good shape for boxing. It was never my number 1 priority, boxing was, but I ended up being so good at it that, the coaches were like, no, you need to make this a priority. And then boxing, and the coaches were like, you're going to make varsity. You made varsity your freshman year. They were always wanting me to just be there at every race, be there. And it was almost to the point when I was at the end of my sophomore year when I felt like, geez, I have to choose because I'm going out of state for these tournaments now, and then my coach was giving me a hard time, and well, I'm not going to let you race if you miss this amount of practices, and it got real bad towards the end. But for the most part, I was always varsity in the top top runners during my freshman year. We broke records my freshman year in the 800, in the 4x8 relay at the Invitational. And then when I ran cross country, I came second in the league, and that's with all the high school's very final race in the cross country race.
And when did you know how good you were in boxing? What you won a lot of awards as an amateur. You won the 2002 and 2003 Junior Olympic Championships. How'd that feel?
I'll be honest with you. It didn't dawn on me how good I was till I turned professional. Because in the amateurs, I may have had a lot of wins, but there were losses too. And the losses were always when it counted. You know, like I'd go all the way to nationals, and the preliminaries, I'd lose by a point or 2 points. And it would. And sometimes, you know, I remember one time fighting a fight in a ringside world.
Yeah, but the odd part about all that is I always look at the girl that she fought. The girl that she'd fight was so beat up. Yeah, Kaliesha would lose. You know, so the amateurs just didn't make no sense.
Yeah, I'd never get the decisions because I wasn't belonging to a, you know, just people can say what they want to say, but the amateurs is just as political as the pros. Everywhere you go. And I wasn't one of the getting ready to go in the USA's, and the officials were telling the girl I'm about to fight, hey, are you going to wear your USA colors? I was looking like, why are you asking her this? And you're going to judge our fight, really? And then, you know, when I fought in Ringside World, I gave the girl an 8 count in the second round, and I beat her up, and we only fought 3 rounds.
2 8 counts.
And I gave her 2 8 counts, and then it took 30 minutes to say the decision, and then they gave her the decision, and they erased in my book 1 and erased it to a loss, and then the referee was taking pictures with her after our fight. So I was always, you know, that was real hard on me.
I had other fighters that were like winning. The selected fighters winning the national.
Plus he had a lot of his male fighters would always win. You know, he had Chris Arreola, who was winning every time. Golden Gloves, went all the way. He won about 18 fights in a row. And then Anthony Villarreal went and won nationals in the Silver Gloves.
Back-to-back Silver Gloves.
Back-to-back Silver Gloves. And Sugar Ray Leonard chose him as the outstanding boxer of the entire tournament. And I'm like, here he is, you know, it must be me. I must just be sorry because I'm losing in these big meets, you know what I mean? And then,
but I always said, and I always had told Kaliesha, you know what, Kaliesha, God got a bigger plan for you, and you know you're gonna do bigger and better things in the future. So just don't worry about the losses, you know, because you are good. I never gave up faith in her, you know.
Yeah, and but anyways, when I went pro and I was winning, and I just kept winning and winning and winning, and I remember I was like, wow, I'm winning back to back to back. I'm not just winning, but I'm dominating, and I was like, this feels good. I'm pretty good.
We should learn how to win. That's the thing is, you know, a lot of these fighters they never learn how to win. Some of them may just be winners automatically because they're talented or for whatever reason, but when you learn how to win and become a winner because you know how to win, then that's a big difference in a champion. So Kaliesha has a lot of heart and a lot of determination and a lot of willpower that figures out a way to win, and those are the type of fighters you can name them, like Bernard Hopkins. You know, he'll figure out a way to win. He shocks everybody, you know, even at his age. You know, so there's a lot of fighters out there that figures out a way to win, and that's what Kaliesha is, one who have figured out how to win.
Yeah, it's amazing though. You had a 98-10 record as an amateur. Is that what it was?
Oh yeah.
And you didn't know how good you were?
The 10 losses, they came
when it
counted, like against Idalila Ruiz and Vanessa Juarez and, you know, Sacred Downing against the big dogs in the finals, you know, and razor close decisions. You know, I would have to say that Kaliesha legitimately had about 4 losses. No, she should only have 4 losses.
You even see that in the pros and in women's boxing. There's a lot more draws than you see in men's boxing. I don't know why, but
Well, Kaliesha has a few draws, and the game is very, I would say, corrupt. Okay, and for example, I really believe in my heart that Kaliesha beat Ada Velez, but the promoter wanted a rematch.
Well, I mean, even in that fight, after the fight, Ada Velez even said, this was a good fight. We got to do this again, but you got this one. She took her hat off, and I gave her her respect. She gave me mine.
Yeah.
And then when we went over to Denmark, and we knew we had scored knockout to win, we accepted a draw, even though we know we won, and the girl over there probably won about 3, maybe even 4 rounds at the most in that fight. So the draws, even I want to say Ava Knight, even her fight, we thought we won. Yeah. But it's hard to bounce back. That was Kaliesha's only loss, and it's in the minds of the judges that you lost that fight. So let's see how you do in this fight. So it's hard for them to see, the true winner, the clear winner, especially in a close fight, because her and Ava's fights, they're close. Both of them were close.
Yeah.
Razor close. It was Ali versus Joe Frazier type of fights. Those are 2 of the greatest fights of Kaliesha's career right there against Ava Knight.
2 talented girls, that's for sure. And
oh yeah.
Did you feel?
2 raw sisters. Going down.
They look like sisters too.
And how, did you feel like you kind of felt the pressure as an amateur, and maybe that's why you were fighting such close fights? Did you feel pressured at all? Was there added pressure, I guess?
No, you know what it is my style wasn't what they liked. Yeah. So I fought like a pro. I would land like hard shots, and the other girls would just be like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and they would be hitting my gloves. And I remember telling my dad, she didn't hit me. Look, I don't have anything on my face. Look, I'm not even hurt. She was hitting my arm. She was hitting my shoulder. But that's what they judge by. They judge by how busy you are. And it's like, that just was never my style. I know that I fought a lot of fights, nervous and whatnot, but that's a part of the game, and the more nervous you are, the more you're on your toes and the better performance you have. So I'm pretty sure that it was just my overall style that the amateurs didn't really like it.
Mm-hmm. And you see it in the Olympics this year, all the controversial calls, and it just happened to everybody. So the amateur system in itself has to get theirself together, because
right.
They're not picking them. If you notice, all the world champions like Victor Ortiz and all these people that jumped out of the amateur programs because the amateur programs was not letting them win, and then look at them turn into world champions, such as Timothy Bradley. I saw Timothy Bradley go up there, and I saw him beat Barnes. I saw him beat George Lopez. I saw him beat these guys in the district. He couldn't even get out of the Southern California district because of politics. Timothy Bradley, come on now. This man should have been a gold medalist in the Olympics.
And not only that, but when I turned pro, I remember telling my dad, okay, I don't want to be a professional amateur. I want to be a professional boxer. Because it's almost like you have to totally change your whole style and game just to. And in the amateurs, it's like, are you guys trying to teach these fighters how to be a pro, or are you guys just teaching them how to win points and play a game? This ain't chess. This is a fight,
and that's why we're losing up at the. To me, that's why we're losing, because
they're choosing the wrong people to.
You got Russia and Cuba putting in strong fighters. They're not putting in strong boxers. Those guys are coming out there fighting. If you notice, Clarissa, she won the gold medal because she said, "Screw this amateur pity pat. Tell me to run around the ring stuff. I'm going in there to fight and rip these girls' heads off." And that's the thing missing with America. They're not in the game to to hurt anymore. We're in there to play a game, and it's not like that. It's not boxing. It can't be like that. You can't have a fighter jump in the ring thinking about what they're going to do. They got to just execute, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes the people who make it to the Olympics, it's their first international tournament period sometimes. It's crazy.
Exactly, because they got a bunch of rookies watching them fight and judging them fight and saying they're fighters. They're not fighters. I'm looking at the coaching staff, and I'm like, how many fights and how much experience you have fighting?
Yeah.
Can you actually fight? And you know, ask them that. Half of them had watched a videotape, studied some books, you know, and come up with this solution to victory. And it's like, no, there's no solution to victory. They got to go back to old school where victory meant, you know, training hard and fighting hard. Training hard and fighting hard. Learning, training, fighting hard, you know?
Yeah.
It's none of that anymore. It's all a strategy, and the strategy's backfiring on everybody.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kaliesha and Marlon Esparza actually won bronze too. So the ladies didn't let us down. Queen Underwood, she did well.
You know, they actually did good. You know, they did real good.
Did you want to get to the Olympics, Kaliesha, in 2008?
Did I what?
Did you want to make the Olympic team, or did you just want to turn pro?
She definitely wanted to. When we waited all the way up till they
he asked me the question. When
Don't start a family feud.
You know, what happened was we were training for the Olympics, and then because we heard news that, you know, females were going to be included in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then when we got news that no, they're not going to have them, then that was when we were like, let's just go pro. You know, like let's why stay amateur? Let's go pro. I've been amateur for how many years? Before, you know, it was like 9 years.
Yeah.
So we said let's just go pro.
Yep. And how'd you feel watching Kaliesha and Marlon perform in the Olympics this year?
You know, I took my hat off to Kaliesha because she didn't, you know, pretty much leave it up to the judge. She was in there knocking the heck out of people, and I loved her confidence. Marlon, she had the perfect amateur style to go as far as she did. You know, she was a real smart technical boxer, and I was just proud that the women put on a show to where we didn't look like it was a cat fight. You know, they looked like they knew what they were doing, and it was skillful matches regardless of
they looked sharper than the guys.
Yeah, they looked sharper than the guys.
Yeah. But you didn't make the Olympic team, and that was upsetting to you, but you decided to turn pro. What do you remember who you turned pro against and where it was and what the result was?
When what?
When you first turned pro, who did you fight? Do you remember, and what happened?
Oh, yeah. My pro debut was against Suzanne Warner, and I won by unanimous decision, and I dropped her in the second round?
In the second
round with a left hook. And I remember getting ready for that fight, and
the promoter, you know, was second-guessing my decision to fight Suzanne Warner because Suzanne Warner had just fought Terry Crews for the world title and I guess put up a heck of a fight for a world championship.
Yeah, he was saying, why are you going to do this to her? She just turned pro. She doesn't even know. You don't even know how she's going to take a pro punch.
I had confidence. I had confidence. The only place where the promoter was right, you know, I thought Kaliesha was going to knock the girl out. The promoter said, girls don't get knockouts, you know. They don't get as many knockouts as the guys. And that's the only thing I have to give it to that promoter is that he was right about that, you know. For some reason, I guess women, they can have babies. They can take a lot of punishment in the ring. It's harder to knock a woman out than it is to knock a man out, you know.
So how'd you feel fighting for the first time without headgear and smaller gloves?
I loved it because I felt like I could see better, I could breathe, everything was like so much more clear. I liked this little gloves. I felt like I was faster and everything.
Yeah. What did you weren't promoted by Golden Boy at first, right?
No, I was never promoted by Golden Boy. I just fought a couple fights on their card because they were having local venues near where I lived, so they figured, well, if she could sell tickets, she could be on the card.
Yeah. And you fought Liz Cervantes 3 times. Tell me about the first fight. What happened in the first fight with Liz Cervantes?
You know what? In the first fight, I was like, "Geez, this girl's she's got a chin on her."
But you know what? In the first fight, it's kind of odd. They stopped the fight and then started the fight. You know, Kaliesha scored like a TKO, and then they went to the judge. Something weird happened. Then the corner argued, and got the fight started back up. So we thought we had won by a TKO, but then they restarted the fight. It was a really strange happening in that fight. But yeah, Kaliesha pretty much dominated the fight against Elizabeth Cervantes in the first one. In the second one, and in the third one, everybody knows what happened.
Yeah, 1 round.
Yeah, 50-something seconds.
So,
but she was always game and always ready.
She's a tough girl.
She's a tough girl. She wasn't supposed to be our first pick for that fight, and but her husband's the one that was managing and training her. And when our opponent fell out, she was like, "Hey, I'm game. Let's do this." And she was always there and ready. She was always training and stepped in. She stepped in last minute and took that fight. And honestly, I just caught her on the button. I didn't even see it coming.
Yeah, I was like,
it
really
wasn't like I was trying
I convinced the husband. I said, let's just get in there and work. We'll just make this easy money. Both of us, we know, both girls know everything about each other, and they'll just get in there and put on a heck of a performance. And that's how boxing is. Kaliesha didn't expect to get a punch through like that, and that's how it usually happens, is when you least expect it.
yeah. And after the second fight, the second fight was closer though, right? Was the second fight closer?
Well, the second fight, Kaliesha wanted the brawl, and Kaliesha's a boxer, and Elizabeth, if she has a chance, it's if you brawl with her. So that fight was an entertaining fight because Kaliesha decided to just sit in the pocket and brawl with her instead of boxing with her. And so, the crowd it was a crowd pleasing fight.
Yeah.
But when Kaliesha boxes, she can box a girl's ears off, and set up her punches and everything, and set up knockouts and things like that. So, I've always told Kaliesha, because there's a big difference between myself and Kaliesha. I got into boxing because, I got in a lot of fights on the street, just constantly just in fights all the time. Then one day I ran into someone who knew some jiu-jitsu, and he tied me up on the ground and damn near killed me. So I had decided to jump into a sport where I'm actually learning something, and I wanted full contact because, I tried Taekwondo, and that didn't work out for me. So I jumped into boxing and joined the Navy and started boxing. And, I'm that true fighter off the streets. Kaliesha is a schooled student of boxing.
Yeah.
She's when I started training her, I told her, you're going to learn the art of fighting, the art of boxing, all in one. Mm-hmm. You're going to be a boxer puncher. You can bang, you can box, you can choose whatever you want to do in that ring, depending on the opponent you're in there with. You're going to be able to make those adjustments. So, it worked out good for Kaliesha, and Kaliesha's deadly when we work together. When me as the fighter, I put that fighter, I bring the fighter, the fight, the actual fight. That's why I've ended up with so many champions, because, a lot of these champions, they don't realize they lose the fact that they have to be fighters. Mm-hmm. You have to be a fighter first. Yeah. In this sport, because you are getting hit and hit hard, and when you get hit, like the old saying, lose your head, your ass go with it. You got to keep a cool head. You got to learn how to control yourself, have self-control while you're fighting. That's the science in it, is having all that self-control to be able to put together a fight, combinations, effective combinations and punches that actually, benefit you to the point where you end up with a knockout or you end up beating up somebody.
And that's why Kaliesha's so good. You didn't treat her any different than how a guy would usually treat his son getting into boxing. That's why she mastered those kind of things that a lot of women boxers weren't mastering early on, you know?
Right. Well, you know, the thing is, you got to think about it. You're a father, and that's your daughter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the type of father. Well, I'm a very protective father.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do to my best ability what I need to do to protect my daughter. And so it's like I'm teaching her the art to the fullest, so that I don't feel threatened. Yeah, threatened that she's going to get hurt in there. You know?
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Not everybody thinks the same way, but sometimes you see, like, people who aren't so good looking thinking they're really good looking. But Kaliesha's a pretty girl. And did you feel like you were a pretty girl, Kaliesha? Or did you worry about your face at all when you were boxing?
When? You mean like growing up?
Yeah, like when you first got into boxing and taking off the headgear, especially. When you...
I didn't really grow up a pretty girl. I didn't start getting a little bit pretty till
later.
Till this year.
So boxing helped.
I made sure I kept that pretty out of her head.
I used to they used to call me Jaws. They used to call me so many names.
Yeah, I called her Sharky.
They called me Shark Bait, Ramsey.
So she didn't realize how pretty she was.
I remember being 16 years old and saw a parent said, are you a boy or a girl?
Wow.
And I looked at him like, I'm a girl. Yeah, I never grew up looking pretty. It just started happening as I got older, but it's not something that I think about because I didn't grow up and that being like a priority or something I even considered. And when I fight nowadays, people are like, "Oh, you're too pretty to get hit," or don't fight too long. You're going to ruin that pretty face." And I'm like, I don't even think of it that way, you know.
Boxing actually helped, maybe.
Boxing actually helped me. It kept me in shape.
Yeah. And after the second Cervantes fight, you fought a close fight against Carly Beatty. Tell me about that one.
Oh,
that's a Marine.
I ate all that shrimp.
that was against
Tonya Craven.
Tonya Craven.
Yeah, but I had that shrimp against her too. I was eating shrimp. What happened was back when I was fighting those fights, I never knew. I didn't have a nutritionist. I was just like a little kid. I was just eating junk right after the fight. I was just reckless. Mm. And she was saying to everybody, "Oh, I'm gonna knock her out with a right hand." Yeah, telling people she's gonna knock me out. So I was just like, I'd like to see you try. So when I fought that fight,
you were actually. The reason why it was close too is because she was fighting. She was fighting in that fight.
Yeah, I was fighting. I was fighting with emotions.
And that's the thing about Kaliesha. I keep telling her, and it's a fact that when she fights Ava, when she wins rounds against Ava is when she boxes Ava. Mm-hmm. She loses rounds against Ava is when she fights Ava. And I told Kaliesha, there's a big difference between a real dog street fighter and someone who's trying to fight. Okay, so you got to stick to your game, which is boxing. Box. And against Carly Beatty, it was a brawl. They had a fight. Kaliesha won. Kaliesha, she's very stubborn, and Kaliesha, she feels she can beat a street fighter in the street. She get these girls that's in the hood that come from Compton or whatever, and they get to disrespecting her, talking all smart, and Kaliesha feels I'll whoop them, So Kaliesha's got that fighter mentality where she's stubborn and but she don't realize it takes experience on that street to know, to know all the tricks of street fighting. Anything goes. Yeah, so when you're in there with a brawl, in a brawl, it's a anything goes type of fight. Compared to a boxing match. So, it's going to be interesting because this girl we're going to fight coming up is a brawler. She's a fighter. So you got boxer versus puncher, boxer versus fighter. So Kaliesha's got to, I've been really, sharpening up the blade on her with her skills, and I'm hoping it's a spectacular event.
Yeah. Now, if you know that Kaliesha fights better when she's moving, how come you nicknamed her Wild Wild? Just because it goes in the West?
well, I was the Wild Wild West, and in the Wild Wild West was because in my high school days I got that nickname on I was a track star.
You
And I used to do the hurdles, high hurdles, low hurdles, the mile relay, and the pole vault. So they was like, man, that dude is wild. He's all over the place. He's wild, wild west. So Kaliesha, she just that name was just transferred to her from me.
Just a
I was meant to be a world champion, so you gonna go ahead and become the world champion for me. It'll be okay.
And I don't want to have you run out of batteries, but you stopped debuting Flor Verdugo in Mexico. How'd you like fighting? How'd you like fighting in Mexico that first time? Did you notice a difference with the way the crowd accepted you?
Yeah, the crowd did accept me. I remember when I went out to Mexico, I was supposed to fight somebody else, and they changed the girl at the very last minute, and they ended up putting a girl who had her dad on the card, and we were like, what? They're pulling a ringer on us, and we were just like nervous at first, but then after the fight, after the first round, I remember my dad was like, Kaliesha, just box her and carry her. And then I just opened up a combination, and her jaw, they said that her jaw was fractured, and they stopped immediately. And I only opened up a combination because as soon as she started throwing a little bit of punches that weren't even landing, the crowd was going wild. So I was like, what? So then I got a little bit, upset, and I opened up real quick, and then when I opened up, the ref was like, no, she's too much for this girl. But after that happened, the crowd was cheering for me, and then even after that, all the kids were wanting to take pictures with me, and everybody was just like, oh, can I have your autograph? That was like my first time giving out autographs was when I was in Mexico. I was like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, they're nice out here.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Ava Knight actually told me that they accepted female fighters a lot more in Mexico, and that kind of surprised me because you think of the Spanish culture is known as being more, male dominated and. Oh
yeah, I know. That's what's funny is in the Spanish culture, it's like women are usually, the cook at-home moms, moms, and the dads are always the hard-working out in the field. So when the woman's out doing the labor like that, it's a surprise that they respect the women so much.
Yeah. Then you did fight Ava Knight. She was 4-0 with 2 draws. How long did you know Ava? Did you know Ava in the amateur days too?
Nope, I didn't know anything about her. My dad knew everything about her. When I fought her the first time, my dad was the one saying, hey, this girl, wants to fight anybody. She wants to fight you, so let's do it. And you're going to keep getting called for this girl because she lives in California and she's your weight. So no matter what, you guys are going to end up meeting up, whether it's now or later. So let's do this. And she's local. All it is a drive away. It's good for the promoters to put it together. We meet halfway, and I didn't know anything about her. But that's usually how it goes. I don't really know much about who I fight. My dad he's always the one who keeps tabs on who I fight, and I just listen to whatever he says,
Yeah, and you did lose the decision, and you felt you won. Your dad already said that you guys felt you won that decision, but how did you feel to look at your record?
The first fight, I know I lost. It was a close fight up until the last 2 rounds.
Oh, okay.
And then the last two rounds, what happened was, I'll tell you exactly what happened, was somebody went in our corner from the audience and said, you're losing, you got to knock her out to win. And really, it was 3-3 and going into the 7th round. So then I went out there and tried to knock Ava out. In the last 2 rounds, I was literally just running in there trying to hit her in the face like an idiot, getting hit as I was going in, just getting hit clean. And it was like blow for blow, but her punches were more, crisp and harder. They looked like the harder shots. And even though her back was against the ropes and I was pressuring her, I wasn't putting anything on my punches. I was just, exhausted from my emotions and trying to score a knockout to win because I felt like I had to knock her out to win. And after that, after I switched up my game completely, that was when, she took those last 2 rounds and she won by unanimous decision.
Yeah. How'd you feel when you did lose that perfect record? Did it bother you?
Yeah, it bothered me a lot. I didn't talk to anybody. I remember running out of the ring in tears and run into the dressing room in tears, not wanting to talk to anybody. And in the ring, I was thinking I won. At that day, I was like, I won. But then, but when I look back at it and I think about it, and I think about how close the rounds were, I'm an honest, judge upon myself. I'm an honest critic. I don't really, I don't really see things in a biased way or favored way. When I think back at it, I know that there's things that I could have done better, and it really, really hurt me. But at the same time, what doesn't break me makes me, and I'm the type of person that if I lose, I don't want to stop until I win. I'm just really stubborn. I like to see, put it this way, I used to play Mario Kart and play the time trials for like 7 hours straight until I beat my brother's time. And then I'd beat his time, and he'd go one try and beat it again, and then I'd be there for another 2 days until over and over and over and over. Yeah. That's how stubborn I am. I just don't. It's hard for me to accept defeat.
Yeah, that's why you're so good. The fighter that never sees a flaw in themselves, they won't improve. So it's good that you think that way. And after that fight with Ava, you took off 9 months. What were you doing for 9 months? Not fighting.
I wanted to rematch immediately. I remember I was telling my dad, I want to fight her again. And he was saying, would you relax? Let it chill, and let's see where she goes after this. Let's see where you go. That was a tough fight, so let's, that's something you guys both fought, somewhat prematurely. You guys fought early in your careers, and he has a lot of respect for her, and so did I, and so I let it go after like 2 months. It was hard on me in the beginning to where I was like, the next week, I was like, I want to rematch next week. I want to rematch next month. I just wanted a rematch, period. And I'm the type of person, even if I get knocked out, I'm like, hey, I want a rematch. This is how I am. And so it didn't bother me. And for the most part, we were out, regardless of the 9 month layoff. That wasn't something we intended to do. It just happened that way. We were always looking for more action. And my dad, he's a real strategic guy, and he planned, he felt that he needed to get my confidence back up to par. So when, after that, he was trying to strategically match me with girls that he knows I'm ready for, but I should win if I'm at my best game. And then that way I'll get back on, top on a winning streak. He wanted me to get back on a winning streak.
Yeah. Yep. Then you won almost every round against Rolanda Andrews, and then you fight to a draw against Ada Velez. You felt you won that draw? Did you feel you won that decision?
I felt that I won that fight because I remember the promoter when they were about to say the decision, he was like 5-1. He gave her 1 round. And we did a 6-rounder, and she in the first 3 rounds, I was just boxing her and boxing her real quick. But not many people know, but I fought that fight dog sick. I couldn't even breathe. I had a real bad congestion in my chest, and my wind wasn't that good. But it was a 6-rounder, so we weren't that like afraid. I wasn't really tripping on it, and then after the first 3 rounds, she finally figured, well, I'm not going to box. I'm just going to get in there and street fight, take it to her, and do all these crazy tactics. And even though we started going toe-to-toe the last 3 rounds, she wasn't really landing anything clean or nothing like that. It was always, me just landing the cleaner shot. She was just picking her punches, and I guess the judges saw it one way. So, but even she was like, after the fight, she was like, yeah, even though, it was a good fight, and I definitely want to do this again, but definitely, I have to give it to you. You won this one. You got this one, Mom. Because that's how she talks. And then, I was just like, yeah, we definitely got to do this again. And I appreciate her coming all the way down there and making her comeback fight against me. I have a lot of respect for her. I used to look up to her when I was little. I used to take pictures with her when I was in the Nationals, and she was already professional. Yeah. So I knew very well about who she was, and I was just ready for whatever they put in front of me, because that was sort of like a last-minute thing that happened anyway.
Yeah. Then you went and fought Anita Christensen in Denmark. What'd you think of Denmark?
Oh, Denmark was beautiful. I'd say the people were beautiful. Even before going to Europe, there were people writing me on Facebook, and I ended up being, friends with a couple of them. And it was just such an interesting atmosphere, hearing the boys from Scotland and the boys from, the Danes from Denmark, and then the way the people embraced us when we were down there, and they rolled out the red carpet, and it was a really, really good experience, and it showed me a whole different side of boxing that I've never seen. I've never seen, that amount of respect for any type of female. So that was when I was, that brought my spirits up on what women's boxing is capable of if given the opportunity anywhere else.
Yeah. And what'd you think of the draw? They ruled that a draw too.
I thought I clearly won. Mm-hmm. What was funny about that fight was we had a plan to knock her out in the 8th round and start trying to go for the knockout in the 8th round. And when I was fighting that fight, I remember I was telling myself, you cannot get hit once. I was boxing and I was saying, get hit and don't get hit. And if you watch the fight, I didn't get hit clean. I was always, I was just trying to box. I was being a really smart, like an Andre Ward type of boxer, and setting up shots. And then in the 8th round, when my dad was saying, all right, Kaliesha, just, go for it. Go for it, give it your all. And I remember I went in there and I started banging her. I whipped a good body shot. And as soon as I hit with that body shot, she leaned over and grabbed my arms and held on tight. and from then on, because she's a veteran, so she knows how to survive if the waters get deep. She knows how to swim deep waters, and she tangled me up, and that was my first time going, in a whole nother country, but I really felt like it kept me focused, not being able to understand what anyone said. I like that. Yeah. I didn't mind that. I didn't like that at all. But I thought, after we replayed it a couple times, I thought I gave her 3 rounds, but I knew that I had clearly won 7.
Yeah. And after that, you went to Peru. What did you think of Peru? Do you speak Spanish? Your mom's Mexican, and your dad's got Puerto Rican in him. You must speak Spanish, right?
Yeah, I speak Spanish, but not fluently. I didn't grow up. I taught myself, and I went and I was in Spanish class. But when I do get to go in, people like at work, they think they think I speak fluent Spanish as soon as I say one sentence because I sound fluent. And not only that, when I understand everything, I just have a hard time putting my words together like fluently.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's tough. And then you fought Vanes Jimenez in Peru, right? That was the night you fought Vanes Jimenez. What did you think of the fight? And how did the Peruvians accept ladies boxing?
Her name was Vanessa Guillermo in Peru. And first off, that was a blessing in disguise. I was getting Kina Malpartida ready for a fight, and then because I was getting her ready for a fight, she invited us to Peru. She open-heartedly said, thank you so much, and I would like for you to be on one of my cards, and I want to, give you guys a great time. And we had a great time out there in Peru. I mean, Europe was real professional and interesting, and it was very, a respectful environment. But Peru was just a getaway. It was an amazing experience. And I fought Vanessa, and going into the fight with Vanessa, she was, known for her punching power. But when I've seen her, I expected her to be a lot bigger. She wasn't as tall as I thought she was, and as big as I thought she was. I thought she was going to be more like when I fought Claudia Lopez. Claudia Lopez had a big back. She was a big girl, but she wasn't. And I think, that international experience, there's no greater competition than out here in the States. We truly have, great competition out here. And me having that experience, with the best in California made the adjustment overseas, or made the adjustment in Peru not something that was, too much of a difficult task to overcome.
Yeah. And then you came home and you fought Angel Gladney for the vacant WBO title on the Shane Mosley Sergio Mora card. That was a big card. What was it like fighting in front of all those people on a card with the great Sugar Shane?
You know, I'd say leading up to the fight was more of a thrilling feeling than the actual fight.
Yeah.
Because they put me on the card so early. They put me like at number 2 or 3 so early that my people were still on the freeway trying to get there. And it was like, what? Why? I'm a 10-rounder. But they had their television bouts that they needed to go on at a certain time, so I had to get my fight out the way. And I don't know. We had to sell 500 tickets to be on the card at the title fight, and we did. We sold all the tickets, and it wasn't what I expected afterwards. Everybody was saying, you're going to knock the door down for women's boxing. You're going to open up so many gates. Golden Boy is going to start promoting women after this fight, and all these promises were being whispered in my ear, and I was almost ready to pull out of the fight 3 weeks before the fight because something that was going on in our team, and we were working with someone who was just saying, I got you this fight, and I made you, and I was just like so mad. I was like, I don't need this fight, I don't need this. I know it's a great card to be on, and any female fighter would love to, but I'd rather do it under the right circumstances, and I was ready to pull out of the fight until a reporter told me, Kaliesha, if you don't want to do this for yourself, then do it for all of women's boxing, because that's who you're doing it for. Do it for women's boxing.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're going to be put in the opportunity to you and Angel to display what female boxers are all about on a major card, possibly will be televised. So I was like, okay, well, you hit me where it hurts because I'm a giving person, and I'll do, I'm going to do it. And I ended up fighting the fight, and everything happened. It couldn't have happened any more beautiful. I didn't try or bank on a knockout. I didn't predict it like Ali does, even though I admire him for doing that. I was just going in there saying, I'm going to do my best. I've trained so hard for this. This is, I'm finally home, and I have this opportunity. It doesn't come too often, and that's what I was, banking on. And then when I got the knockout, it was just even better. It was like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And we didn't look like girls fighting. We looked like two, boxers.
Yep.
And I did everything that they had said I needed to do. I did my part, but nothing happened that was promised. It was just so many empty promises. After that, I thought women were going to be televised on a regular. I thought Golden Boy was going to start promoting women. I thought they would even have signed me. I thought I was going to get a signing bonus and all that. Nothing ever happened. So
terrible. And it's
well,
strange
that's why, it was a great accomplishment. I'd say it was more of an accomplishment that was my dad. It was for my dad. I dedicated that fight to my dad because he's a world championship coach. He teaches fighters, and he could take a fighter all the way to the top. And I just wanted to prove that. I wanted to prove to everybody, who had left my dad or any fighter, whoever felt that he wasn't a responsible enough coach to take a fighter all the way to the top, that he can. And that was really what that fight was about.
Yeah, that's nice. And you stopped there in the 7th. You did it. You accomplished it. You're a champion now. How did that feel to hold the belt when it was over?
I didn't really feel. I honestly didn't really feel much of it until my city recognized me and they gave me a proclamation and they highlighted all of my accomplishments in boxing. And then at the very end, they said, "And now, like I said, the atmosphere of that night wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
I thought afterwards I would be on the, I was more like, okay, hurry up, get on the stage to say your speech. Okay, get down. Okay, let's, it was all about Shane and the other televised, Frankie Gomez and the other televised guys. So
yeah.
I really felt like just another number that night. And being honest, I really felt the tears came for me when my city had me as a special guest in the city council on the local television channel with a proclamation that they gave and my mayor signed, and it was out of nowhere. You know, it was like, we recognize you, we've seen your accomplishments, and we would like to say thank you for representing our city in such a fashionable way.
Yeah,
that was when I got real teary-eyed.
Yeah, and after that, you made your first defense against the only woman to beat you, Ava Knight. Did you want her particularly, or is it just that's the way the fight came up? Did you want to rematch her?
No, I'll tell you what Kaliesha wanted, I don't know if she mentioned the car accident she got into, you know, right after she won the title. She was scheduled to fight that April, and just before, you know, in January, she got in a real bad car accident.
And I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, Kaliesha was going 65 on the freeway and hit the left wall, spent around and hit the right wall.
Wow.
And it was almost a fatal accident. It was a very bad. She totaled the car, and the seat belt had, you know, damaged her chest to where it gave her an internal bruise. So that took about 3 months to heal. And, you know, next thing you know, she lost her TV opportunity because we were going to fight on the James Toney undercard on Fox Sports. That was supposed to be her debut on TV. We lost that opportunity because of the car accident, and it came close to losing the WBO title. So, you know, we had to find someone that was willing to fight, you know, because 2 or 3 girls fell out, and the deadline was June. Kaliesha defended her WBO title on the deadline date of June 15th against Ava Knight.
But they didn't tell me.
And she didn't fight Ava Knight, you know, for a purse. She just fought Ava Knight to keep her belt, and Kaliesha accomplished that night. So that was a major accomplishment in her career, was that rematch with the girl that beat her to keep her belt.
And that's the one you thought you won, right? The draw.
Yeah, that's the reason why we fought Ava Knight. Was we were on a mission to keep that belt, and Kaliesha wasn't letting nobody take that belt from her. Yeah. Not even Ava.
How much did it bother you, Kaliesha? Is she on the phone? One? I'm not sure if she's there. You there, Kaliesha?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. How much did it bother you not to get the credit for that win against Ava that you felt you deserved?
You know what? I was a little bothered because I felt like people were going to look at the fight and say, "Oh, Kaliesha got a hometown decision." You know, Kaliesha, I bet you Ava really won, but Kaliesha didn't. You know, she got the decision, she got the draw, she got lucky. That's what I thought at first. But being honest, the reaction from the crowd and from the people and from the media made me not so bitter. I honestly could say bitter. I'm not so bitter about the decision because everyone. At the end of the night, it was. I didn't realize it during the fight. You know, I was just fighting my heart out. But at the end of the night, the reaction from the crowd was like, wow, you guys, oh my God, that was so thrilling. That was so, nerve-wracking. It was great. You guys would just catch each other and just box. You were boxing because you were quick, and Ava was, coming at you. And everybody, I'd say that the reaction from the public is what really kept me humble and kept me just grateful and thankful that, it ended the way it did. I didn't, a rematch, as far as a rematch goes, it had to be with the right promoter, with the right, TV, and it had to be. I want the world to see the rematch, and I can honestly say that I'm not upset about the decision. Mm-hmm. I'm very thankful for the reaction of the people. And you guys are actually good friends now, right? Yeah, we were actually good friends before the fight too. No, were you in the second fight? Well, fighters that fight like that, you got respect for each other. Oh, definitely respect. Back in the days when I used to have my toughest fights on the streets with those guys, we became best friends. Those became my best friends. Yeah. The ones that showed you real true grit and real true heart and real true
true blue fighter, you know.
Not only that, but me and Ava we had a lot to relate. You know, we were both going through the same struggle of trying to get fights, trying to be treated equal out here in the States, trying to, you know, we were just like living in the slums of the boxing, you know, world, and being discriminated left and right by promoters, and so we could relate. You know, I remember her specifically telling me, you know, this is ridiculous. I'm over here. She was telling me how she was living on her own, you know, with hardly any money because she's boxing full time, and boxing is not paying her enough to live. And I was right there relating with her. So we both have the similar story. So we had a lot, you know, we had a lot in common.
Yeah, and then you went to Mexico. You fought in Mexico 2 times in a row after that fight. You fought Jessica Villafranca in Mexico. And what do you remember about Jessica in that fight?
I remember her just being huge. That girl was big. She was taller. She had longer arms. She was a big girl. Mm-hmm. And she was always fighting at 130. You know, she was always fighting at the heavier weights.
She's awkward.
But she was a very, you know, she was what I call a typical professional. She had power, chin, and heart. You know, she wasn't one of the most skillful fighters, but she definitely had, you know, power. And she was deceivingly good. She's one of those dangerous fighters you don't want to underestimate because they'll catch you and then boom, you know, get your number.
Ring your bell.
Yeah, she'll ring your bell.
And your last fight was in April. You fought Claudia Lopez. What do you remember about that one? That was in Mexico too.
Yeah, you know what? She was very awkward, being a lefty, and
people got to realize it's hard to look good against a lefty.
It's so, you know, it's a whole different. Everything's the opposite when you're fighting a lefty. That's number one. But then when you're fighting a lefty from overseas, it's like, oh man, it just throws awkward on top of awkward, and it always looks easier said than done. It always looks different from the outside. But when you're in there, and when you're used to being able to land a jab, but the jab's just not there, and when you're used to being able to throw a right and expect the left to block, and that's not happening. Everything's the opposite. It makes the fight more, you know, difficult than
she was surprising
what it looks like.
She could actually box. She was a boxing lefty.
Yeah, we thought she was going to come out brawling, and she came out boxing, so that was a surprise too.
Yeah, and you got a fight scheduled now. October 6th, you're moving up in weight. You're fighting Christina Ruiz. She's the IFBA International Champion. No, it's actually a vacant IFBA championship, right?
Yeah.
And how do you feel moving up in weight? And were you having trouble making weight, 118?
I've been struggling making 118 for the last
Well, she's been making 118 since she was 13 years old.
I've been fighting at 118 since I was 13. I've been fighting at 118, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, I have hips now. I'm a woman. I'm different. I'm built different. I'm naturally bigger, and we did it for as long as we can. And 122 is something that I've always told my dad I wanted to do, and he's finally just like,
it's not finally. I had her scheduled on a roadmap.
Well, he doesn't tell me about these roadmaps. I just
age 24 to fight at 122. She's 24 now, so she's right on schedule because featherweight is coming. I think, I really feel Kaliesha could be a 3-division world champion, so that's the goal, long-term goal.
Yeah, I'm coming after you 26 pounders and 132. No, I'm just kidding. What?
So what do you know about Christina Ruiz, though? What kind of fight are you expecting?
I know she put Emily Kleinfelter in the hospital. And I know Emily Kleinfelter very well because Emily Kleinfelter was always winning the nationals and gold. And I know that she's a tough, heavy-handed girl. She just comes in and wants to fight or whatever. But I try not to think about too much about what they do. I just come with my battle plan and worry about what I have to do to win.
Yeah, and you got any predictions for how it's going to go? I'm sure you'll want to be on your toes.
6-round knockout. Just kidding. I think it's gonna be a real good fight. I know she's super hungry, but I am too. I always feel like I'm being underestimated, and I always feel like every time I fight, people are like, "Oh, well, I didn't know I would."
Pretty girl can't fight.
Yeah. I always feel like I have to do more to prove myself. So I'm just ready to go out there and do what I have to do to win.
Yeah, and what do you take me through? How long is an average training camp for you, and how long are you going to train for this fight coming up?
Well, the average training camp is like a good one would be 6 to 8 weeks. And we've had a little more than 6 to 8 weeks for this fight. We've actually had 10 weeks, so we gradually got the wheels spinning, and now we're like 3/4 away into training camp and ready to go into high gear. Kaliesha's moving up to her 10-round sparring sessions, and she's got her running, her win. She's right on track. She's right on track to just be able to put on a full-blown performance for 10 strong rounds. We're looking to go 10 strong rounds. Christina's never been stopped. She's fought the best out there. Alicia Ashley and Ronica Jeffries. So I see, the girl is very tough. So we're looking for the tough long haul, and I'm just for this fight. It's going to be a little different, I think, because me and Kaliesha decided, she's older now, and she's used to Daddy telling her what to do all the time. But I was like, you know what? Let's work together. I want to know what you're thinking, but what you want to do, how you want to do. So how can we incorporate our training together so that we work together and become stronger? Yeah.
And
so we came up with some new tips, some new things that I'm anxious to showcase, because in her sparring sessions, it's made Kaliesha, come around and look just spectacular. So that's what I'm hoping for, is that she's able to pull it off in a fight.
And having to make 122 instead of 118, maybe you'll be able to focus more on the boxing aspect instead of making weight necessarily.
Right. That's exactly what we said. It says at least she doesn't have to train to make weight. She's training to win and fight. This time around. Yeah. So that's what makes it a little funner. Yeah. Instead of that training to make weight, we was up there in Mexico. 3 days before the fight, 7 pounds overweight. It's like, oh my God, how are we gonna get this off? The weight is just not coming off anymore.
Yeah. What is your walking around weight? If you want to answer that, I know it's rude to ask a lady.
She's funny. She's gonna say 140. No, she's not 140. She walks around like a 130, 129, 130. And then before this fight, her walking around weight should be like 126. Yeah. Should be 125. So she only had to really drop 3 pounds before the fight. I like her to be eating normal all the way up to the day before the weigh-ins. Yeah. Having a sticking to a regular diet and everything, but not sitting starving and malnutritioned and all that. So she'll be a nice solid 120, 124, 125 pounder walking around, the week of the fight.
And did you see the Christy Martin-Mia St. John fight? I'm curious to know.
I've seen the highlights. I didn't get to go see the fight. I just seen the highlights.
Yeah. What do you think they did for women's boxing, Kaliesha? Christy Martin and Mia St. John.
I think it was more of a fight that Mia wanted to do for herself. She had that against her in her career, and I'm happy that she was able to get, everybody has goals that they have in life, and she overcame that goal and won, and it kind of, even though they're older and they're at the end of their ropes, it brought back fans who were fans of them to view women's boxing all over again. So, it was almost like they sparked. They added a spark in the sport of women's boxing. Yeah.
It brings attention.
Yeah, it brings attention to all of women's boxing.
Yeah, and that's what you need.
Even though they were old veterans, the people who followed Mia and who followed Christy, who were fans of Christy, now are like, back to looking at women's boxing, and now they're like, well, where's what else is going on out there? So I had nothing against it.
The only thing I was against was how quick it happened after Christy Martin had to go through what she had to go through. She.
Oh.
Yeah, promoters don't care though.
Yeah, but they don't.
And kind of sad. Christy Martin was, Well, she got bullet holes, stab wounds, and all kind of injuries.
Yeah.
You know, the age on top of that, she probably felt she needed to get that rematch
before something else happened.
Let's just do it. Let's just, the promoter thing. We better get it going now. Get it done out.
And Mia, she's always in training. I remember helping her get ready for a fight, a year and a half ago. She was always still training in and out of the gym.
Now, how's she hang with you, a young lioness? When she's
there's
fine.
highlights on the internet.
I'll have
Check
to look.
those out. But she's tall, and I got it. Honestly, when I remember getting in there with her, I was thinking, this girl, she's a pretty girl, and I don't think she's tough enough. And when I sparred her, I was like, oh man, now I know why she's a pro, because she was tough as nails. I mean, like, she will take my best shot and then hit her best shot right afterwards. She was like, she has that Aztec heart in her. Yeah. She has that ambition, and that proves, there's something special about everybody, and that was what's special about her.
The difference between the girls from the past and the girls of the present is the girls from the present got that amateur pedigree, they got that upbringing in the amateurs. Yeah. So Kaliesha was just obviously a lot more finesse and skillful than Mia. It was fun. It was a great experience, even watching Kaliesha work against in the ring sparring with Mia St. John. It was great. We have great respect for Mia St. John, but at the same time, me as a trainer, I understand what the difference is. It's just the finesse is not there with Mia as it is with Kaliesha, and that was what was enjoyable to watch is Kaliesha, slipping and looking like a, Sugar Ray Leonard, being able to get off combinations and hard punches and just look great against what's considered a great female from the past, in the 90s, or a good, female from the past. So, it was a good sparring session. It was great work, great fun, but the girls, both of them ended up giving each other great respect afterwards.
You guys make a great team. The Kaliesha tries to downplay what she did, and you just openly admit she kind of beat Mia up.
My phrase is, Kaliesha, my phrase with sparring is, slap around. Who's going to slap who around, Yeah. And I would have to say Kaliesha was slapping her around a little bit.
Nice way to
put it. Bad.
But they had, it was good. It was all good.
I hear you did lunch with Layla Ali. Did she have a big impact on you coming up, Layla?
No, you know what? I saw one of her fights live when I was little because my dad wanted to take me, to a female professional fight, and
unfortunately, it
was against a 45,
50-year-old
lady who didn't know what she was doing, didn't belong in the ring, and I remember Layla was a little upset that that was who she was fighting against, but there was no real competition for her at the time, and it wasn't really like what I expected, and she wasn't. I looked up to her dad. That's who I looked up to. It wasn't anything. It didn't have anything to do with her as a person back then when I was young. But I just didn't see when I choose my favorite fighter. It's always because I see something special in them in a fight. And I never seen anything. I never seen a fight like when she fought Jackie Frazier. I truthfully thought that Jackie might have even won. I thought that was a real close fight, and the decision should have been Jackie. I didn't know, and I was like, and Jackie was real sloppy. She was a tough girl, street fighter, but she was sloppy. And Layla was closing her eyes a lot and looking down and punching. So I didn't see anything that really made me be so much of
in awe of her.
Like, I wasn't really inspired.
Yeah.
Nothing against her in or out the ring, but just I'm inspired by fighters like Edwin Valero.
Yeah.
You know, or Julio Cesar Chavez, Melchick Taylor, Bernard Hopkins, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Muhammad Ali, even my dad, but no, he don't fall into that category.
It's me and Marvin Hagler, like Legacy Magic Juan, that was me.
Whatever.
But Layla, to me, she was an A fighter fighting in against a bunch of B fighters, C and B fighters.
Yeah.
So, it was really hard to judge how good she was.
Yeah.
Unless that fight between her and Ann Wolfe had to happen.
Yeah.
That was right there, one of the A fighters, one of the only A fighters in that weight division.
Ann Wolfe is a killer.
But I would watch her fights, and I would study her fights, and I saw that she had the best trainer. To me, she was just like Chavez Jr.'s son, or Julio Cesar Chavez's son.
Mm-hmm.
She's given the greatest trainers in the world to groom her up to where she could perform, and she put on some good performances. She had a few impressive performances to me, but like I said, they were impressive performances against B and C fighters, and it's unfortunate that she didn't have a weight class full of A fighters, or a weight class that was deep. Period. People don't realize, there's not very many heavyweight women on the planet, on Earth, let alone, in the United States or in the world of boxing, when women are scarce in boxing back then.
Yeah.
So, it would have been interesting it would have been very interesting if Layla Ali was a bantamweight or a featherweight, which is the weight class, the average weight class for a woman. That would have been very interesting.
I know this interview is going a lot longer than I thought it would, and it's later than I thought it would be. But I just don't want to let you go without getting a few picks of the upcoming fights. What do you think about tomorrow night's Andre Ward, Chad Dawson fight?
I'm going to pick Andre Ward. What do you say, Kaliesha?
Chad Dawson, Andre Ward? Chad Dawson by knockout. No. No, I think Andre Ward's just going to beat him up a little bit and win by decision. But, Andre always shocks me, because every time I think he's going to win by decision, he'll win by TKO.
Yeah.
So, but either way it goes, I think he's just too slick for Chad. I think he's real slick.
Mm-hmm. And Vitaly Klitschko's fighting the same night. What do you think of Vitaly Klitschko and how he ranks in all-time great heavyweights?
He's up in the top three. I give him top three.
Top three. That's great. I'd be happy with that if I were him. Usually people ain't that nice to him.
He's that Russian and Rocky, man.
yeah. The guy's great. And he took 3 years off and came back. People don't consider that really when they talk about Vitaly, but he missed 3 years.
Yeah.
He came back and looked great. How about the Chavez-Martinez fight?
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be really good.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think Chavez may shock people and beat Martinez, but because the boy believes in himself.
Yeah, I think, you never know. I really feel like, honestly, I feel like Martinez, the only way Martinez will win is if he knocks him out. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
I think Chavez has a chance of just beating him up.
Mm-hmm. I remember a lot of people thought Kelly Pavlik was too big for Sergio too, but he handled him pretty good, and Paul Williams. So I don't know. People keep thinking that someone's going to be too big for him, and he surprises you. And
Yeah. Sergio is a heck of an athlete.
Yeah.
He's been inactive for a while. People don't know what that do to you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him in action lately. And he was on top of everything when he was wearing his crown. He was knocking out Paul Williams and stuff. So it's going to be very interesting.
And one more fight. What do you think of Canelo and Josecito Lopez?
Well, Kaliesha, she used to be Josecito's brother's sparring partner on a regular basis over there at Lincoln Gym. So it's a history, and we love Josecito, and we wish the best for Josecito.
Mm-hmm.
But, Carnelo's a hell of a fighter, a hell of a boxer. So that's going to be a tough task for Josecito. But I've always known by bringing boxers over there personally that Josecito got a hell of a left hook that'll it broke Victor Ortiz's jaw, and if he catch Canelo, it's gonna do more to break his jaws. It's gonna put him to sleep, you know, because that's what it was.
I'm just hoping that Jose is just as hungry as he was against Victor, because he was so hungry. There was nothing telling him he was gonna lose.
Yeah.
Well, he's moving up 2 divisions, so I don't think he's physically hungry. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's a money fight.
Well, we've seen Jose walk around at 180, so that boy can get big. You know, so.
That's true.
But he's an athlete. Everybody don't know that boy used to run cross country with Kaliesha, and we used to see him winning those nationals and stuff. He's an athlete, and that's one thing I don't think Canelo has faced as an athlete as you know, a pure, solid world class athlete like Josecito. So you know, I give him respect for having the huevos to take the fight, but it's a real tough fight to take.
Yeah. Juan West and his daughter / protege, Kaliesha Wild West. I appreciate your time. It's past midnight. I'm sorry I took so much time. And good luck on October 6th against Christina Ruiz. Appreciate your time, guys.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right, have a good one. Thank you. And that was Kaliesha West and Juan West. Two great people to talk to, and you hope nothing but the best for them. And good luck to both of them for that vacant IFBA championship against Christina Ruiz. It's going to be in Pomona, California. And if you're in or around Pomona, say get out and see a very talented girl fighter. A champion. Kaliesha Wild West. Appreciate their time, and on behalf of everybody at PBI Radio, thanks for joining us. Follow me on Twitter at Chris2Guns. Thank you.